You know that feeling when you wake up and wonder, what am I going to do today? I remember the first morning after I retired. The alarm didn't go off because I didn't set one. For the first time in over 40 years, my day wasn't mapped out for me. No meetings, no deadlines, no urgent emails. Just time. And let me tell you, that feeling was both exhilarating and terrifying. What was I supposed to do with all these hours stretching before me? Maybe you're feeling that way too. Or perhaps you've been retired for years, but still haven't found that thing that makes your eyes light up when you talk about it. That hobby that doesn't feel like you're just passing time, but actually enriching your life. Well, today I want to talk about why it's never too old to learn something new, and how discovering a creative hobby in my 60s changed everything for me. When I pictured retirement, I imagined leisurely mornings with coffee and crossword puzzles, maybe some gardening and occasional lunches with friends. And sure, those things are nice. But after a few months, I realized something was missing. Structure. Purpose. That feeling of accomplishment at the end of the day. I think there's this myth that once you retire, you're supposed to be content just existing, slowing down, taking it easy. And while there's certainly value in slowing down, our brains and hearts still crave stimulation, challenge, and growth. We're not meant to just stop learning or creating just because we've reached a certain age. I remember talking to my neighbor Helen about this. She's in her 70s and busier now than when she worked full-time. She looked at me and said, "Retirement isn't the end of productivity, it's the beginning of creativity." That stuck with me. The truth is, retirement gives us something incredibly precious that our working years often couldn't. Time to explore interests without the pressure of monetizing them or fitting them into busy weekends. It's a renaissance period, a rebirth of curiosity and creative exploration. Did you know that learning new skills actually changes our brain structure, no matter our age? It's true. The concept is called neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to form new neural connections throughout life. For years, scientists believed that our brains became fixed after childhood. But research has completely overturned that idea. Studies show that seniors who engage in new, challenging activities show improved memory function and cognitive abilities compared to those who stick to familiar routines. I was skeptical at first. I thought, I'm in my 60s, surely my brain is set in its ways. But then I started painting, something I'd never done before, and within weeks I noticed changes. I was more observant of colors and shapes in everyday life. I found myself problem-solving differently. Even my dreams became more vivid. It's not just about preventing cognitive decline, though that's important too. It's about actively enhancing brain function. Learning to paint, play an instrument, speak a new language, or master woodworking creates new neural pathways. It's like creating detours when there's road construction, giving your brain alternative routes to process information. And here's something fascinating. Creative activities in particular seem to activate multiple brain regions simultaneously. When I'm painting, I'm using visual processing, fine motor skills, emotional expression, decision-making, and memory, all at once. It's like a full brain workout without having to leave my art table. There's something incredibly liberating about discovering creative pursuits in your senior years. You know why? Because we're finally free from the need to be exceptional. Throughout our working lives, many of us were conditioned to believe that if we weren't naturally talented at something, it wasn't worth pursuing. Or that learning, new skills was primarily about career advancement or practical application. Art for art's sake. That was for children or professional artists, not for ordinary adults with responsibilities. But here's the beautiful truth I've discovered. Starting a creative hobby later in life comes with the wisdom to understand that perfection isn't the point. The joy is in the process, not the outcome. When I first picked up a paintbrush 2 years ago, my hands shook slightly, partly from age, partly from nervousness. My first painting was, well, let's just say it won't be hanging in any galleries. But I felt a rush of satisfaction that I hadn't experienced in years. I wasn't painting to become famous or to sell my work. I was painting because mixing colors and watching them blend on canvas brought me joy. And that's the secret that many seniors are discovering in this hobby renaissance. We're embracing creative pursuits not to master them, but to experience them. There's a humility and curiosity that comes with being a beginner at 65 or 70 or 80 that actually enhances the experience. I've met seniors who have published their first poems in their 70s, taken up ballet in their 80s, and learned to play the cello in their 90s. None of them expect to become professionals. They're doing it because. Why not? What do we have to lose? One unexpected benefit of taking up painting was the community I found. When I signed up for that first beginner's watercolor class at the community center, I was just looking for instruction. I didn't realize I'd also find friendship. Creative hobbies have this wonderful way of connecting us with like-minded people. Whether it's a formal class, an online forum, or a meetup group, sharing your creative journey with others adds a rich social dimension to the experience. This is particularly valuable for seniors, as our social circles often shrink after retirement. Friends move away to be closer to grandchildren. Some pass away. The workplace connections fade. Before we know it, our opportunities for meaningful social interaction can become limited. My Tuesday morning painting group has become a highlight of my week. We're a diverse bunch, a retired nurse, a former accountant, a homemaker, and a university professor, all united by our love of watercolors and our beginner status. We celebrate each other's progress, share techniques we've discovered, and yes, sometimes commiserate over our artistic disasters. The conversations that happen while we're painting cover everything from world events to family updates to book recommendations. There's something about engaging your hands in creative work that frees your mind for deeper connection. We solve the world's problems while mixing greens and blues. For those who might be more introverted or have mobility limitations, online communities can provide similar benefits. There are Facebook groups, YouTube channels, and forums dedicated to virtually every creative pursuit imaginable, where seniors share their work, ask questions, and offer encouragement to one another. Let me address the elephant in the room, that persistent voice that says, "I'm too old to start something new." I hear this all the time, and I've certainly thought it myself. I should have started this years ago. My hands aren't steady enough anymore. I'll never get good enough to make it worthwhile. I'm embarrassed to be a beginner at my age. These thoughts are so common, but they're based on flawed assumptions about aging and learning. The truth is, there is no expiration date on learning new skills. None. Grandma Moses, one of America's most famous folk artists, didn't start painting until she was 78 years old. She created over 1,500 paintings after that, and her work has been displayed in museums worldwide. Laura Ingalls Wilder didn't publish her first book until she was 65. Harland Sanders, yes, Colonel Sanders, started Kentucky Fried Chicken when he was 65. Anna Mary Robertson Moses, better known as Grandma Moses, began painting at 78. Gladys Burrill ran her first marathon at 86 and completed her last one at 92. These aren't just exceptional cases. They represent a truth that science confirms. Our capacity to learn remains intact throughout our lives. Yes, we might learn differently than we did as children. It might take a bit longer to master certain skills. But the ability to learn, improve, and find joy in new pursuits never leaves us. I remember my first painting class. I was so nervous that I arrived 20 minutes early and sat in my car, almost talking myself into driving back home. What if everyone else is younger? What if my hands shake? What if I make a fool of myself? But when I finally gathered my courage and walked in, I found a room full of people just like me, seniors. With no prior art experience, all taking their first tentative steps into a new creative world. By the end of that first 2-hour class, my fear had been replaced with fascination. We often focus on the mental and emotional benefits of creative hobbies, but there are significant physical advantages too, especially for seniors. Take painting, for instance. The fine motor control required for brushwork can help maintain dexterity in our hands and fingers, something that naturally diminishes with age if not regularly exercised. After several months of regular painting, I noticed that the slight tremor in my right hand had actually improved. My doctor confirmed that the repeated fine motor movements were essentially physical therapy for my hands. Many creative hobbies also improve hand-eye coordination. Whether you're threading a needle for embroidery, positioning your fingers on a guitar fretboard, or applying brush strokes to a specific area of a canvas, you're strengthening the neural connections between your visual perception and physical movements. Even the posture required for many creative activities can be beneficial. Sitting at an easel or craft table encourages an upright position that's better for spine health than slumping. In front of a television, I've found that I'm more aware of my posture throughout the day since I started painting regularly. For seniors with limited mobility, creative hobbies can provide meaningful physical activity within their capabilities. A friend of mine, who uses a wheelchair, has discovered jewelry making. The intricate work keeps her hands nimble and gives her a physical creative outlet that accommodates her situation. And let's not forget the simple physical act of getting out of the house to attend a class or workshop. It gets us moving, changes our environment, and breaks the sedentary patterns that can become too comfortable in retirement. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned through taking up painting later in life is the beauty of embracing imperfection. This wasn't easy for me. Like many of my generation, I was raised with the "if you can't do something well, don't do it at all" mentality. Perfectionism served me well in my career, but it can be paralyzing in creative pursuits. I remember bringing my first completed watercolor landscape to class for critique. I had labored over it for hours, frustrated by the way the colors bled together unpredictably and how my trees looked more like green blobs than actual foliage. I was almost apologetic as I placed it on the easel. But my instructor said something I'll never forget. She said, "There's a freshness in your work that many experienced painters try for years to recapture. Don't be so quick to see flaws where there is authentic expression." That moment was transformative for me. I began to understand that in creative pursuits, imperfection isn't just acceptable. It's often where the most interesting and authentic aspects of our work emerge. The Japanese have a concept called wabi-sabi, finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. It's particularly relevant for seniors beginning creative journeys. Our hands might shake a bit. Our vision might not be what it once was. But these limitations can become part of our unique creative signature. Learning to embrace imperfection has spilled over into other areas of my life too. I'm less frustrated when things don't go exactly as planned. I can see the beauty in the unexpected and unplanned moments. There's a certain freedom in releasing the need for everything to be perfect. And there's something else I've discovered. The beginner's mind is actually a gift. In Zen Buddhism, it's called shoshin, approaching subjects with openness, eagerness, and no preconceptions. Children naturally have this, but we adults often lose it. Starting a new creative pursuit in our senior years gives us the opportunity to recapture that beginner's mind, to see with fresh eyes and approach learning with curiosity rather than judgment. I'd love to try painting, but I just don't have the space. I can't commit to regular classes. It seems expensive to get all the supplies. I wouldn't even know where to begin. These are common concerns I hear from seniors interested in exploring creative hobbies. And they're valid considerations. But I've found that, with a bit of creativity, most of these obstacles can be overcome. Let's talk about space first. You don't need a dedicated art studio to paint. When I started, my studio was a TV tray in the corner of my living room. Now I've graduated to a small desk by the window, but it's still a modest setup. The key is creating a space, however small, that's designated for your creative work, somewhere you can leave your supplies out and return to easily. As for time commitment, one of the beautiful things about creative hobbies is their flexibility. Unlike team sports or classes with rigid schedules, many creative pursuits can be picked up and put down as your schedule and energy levels allow. Some days I paint for hours. Other days I might just mix colors and make a few brush strokes. There's no minimum time requirement for creativity. Regarding cost, it's true that some hobbies can be expensive if you go all in from the beginning. But most can be started quite economically. For painting, I began with a simple watercolor set from the craft store, a pad of paper, and 3 brushes, total investment under $30. As my interest grew, I gradually added better quality supplies. Many community centers and senior programs also have supplies available for use during classes. And if you're wondering where to begin, that's where the internet becomes your best friend. YouTube is filled with free tutorials for beginners in virtually every creative pursuit imaginable. There are also many online courses specifically designed for seniors, with instruction paced appropriately and projects selected to be accessible for beginners. Local resources are valuable too. Check your community center, senior center, local art studio, or community college for classes designed for beginners. Many offer special discounts for seniors or even free introductory sessions. Remember, the goal isn't to become a professional artist or to create masterpieces. It's to engage in the process of creating, to experience the joy of making something with your own hands, and to discover new aspects of yourself along the way. I've touched on the cognitive and physical benefits of creative hobbies, but I want to spend some time on the emotional and psychological aspects, because they've been the most profound for me personally. There's something deeply therapeutic about creative expression. It gives us a voice for feelings that might be difficult to put into words. After my wife passed away 3 years ago, I found myself struggling with grief that seemed to have no outlet. Traditional talk therapy was helpful, but it was actually painting that gave me a way to express the complex emotions I was experiencing. I didn't set out to paint my grief. I was just learning basic techniques, but somehow those emotions found their way onto the canvas. Sometimes in stormy seascapes, sometimes in the contrast between light and shadow. My instructor noticed it before I did. "There's so much feeling in your work," she said. "You're not just painting scenes, you're painting emotions." For seniors dealing with major life transitions, retirement, loss of loved ones, health challenges, moving from a long-time home, creative expression can provide a healthy outlet for processing these changes. It's not about artistic talent, it's about giving form to feelings. Creative hobbies also provide what psychologists call flow states, those periods of deep immersion in an activity where time seems to disappear and you're completely present in the moment. These flow states are associated with reduced anxiety, lower blood pressure, and increased feelings of well-being. I've experienced this myself. When I'm painting, my usual worries about health issues or financial concerns fade into the background. For those hours, I'm just focused on the interplay of color and form. It's a form of meditation, really, mindfulness with a paintbrush. There's also the profound satisfaction that comes from creating something tangible. In a digital age where so much of what we do leaves no physical trace, there's something deeply gratifying about pointing to a painting, a knitted scarf, a wooden bowl, or a piece of pottery and saying, "I made that." It's a reminder of our capacity to bring something new into the world, to leave a mark, however modest. For many seniors, creative hobbies also provide a sense of continuity with the past. A friend of mine recently took up quilting, something her grandmother had done. Each stitch connects her not only to the present moment, but to her family heritage. She feels her grandmother's presence as she works, creating not just quilts but a bridge between generations. As we enter our senior years, many of us begin thinking about legacy, what we'll leave behind, how we'll be remembered. Creative hobbies offer a unique opportunity to create tangible expressions of our inner lives that can outlast us. I never thought about my paintings as a legacy until my daughter commented on one I had given her for her birthday. "You know, Dad," she said, "someday my children will have this painting. They'll point to it and say, 'Grandpa made that.' A piece of you will still be with them." That conversation shifted my perspective on my creative pursuits. I realized that each painting isn't just a pleasant way to pass time. It's a piece of myself, my vision, my sensibilities, my way of seeing the world, preserved in physical form. This doesn't mean we need to create masterpieces worthy of museums. The value isn't in technical perfection or commercial worth. It's in the authenticity of expression. A simple watercolor of your garden, a handwritten collection of family recipes, a memoir of your childhood experiences, a series of photographs capturing your local community. These are priceless to those who will come after us. Creative expression can also be a way of processing and sharing our life experiences. Through my painting, I've found myself drawn to landscapes that remind me of places significant in my life. The lake where I proposed to my wife, the view from my childhood bedroom window, the park where my children played. Without consciously intending to, I'm creating a visual autobiography. For some seniors, creative hobbies become a way to document family or community history that might otherwise be lost. A friend of mine has taken up documentary filmmaking in his 70s, recording interviews with longtime residents of our town about its changing landscape and traditions. Another is creating illustrated stories of her immigrant parents' journey to America for her grandchildren. Even if you don't have children or grandchildren, creative work can be a meaningful legacy. Consider donating your creative works to community organizations, local historical societies, or online archives where they can be preserved and shared. As I look at the painting on my easel, still unfinished, still evolving, I'm reminded of something important. We too are unfinished works, constantly evolving regardless of our age. The canvas of our lives still has blank spaces waiting for new colors, new forms, new expressions. Starting a creative hobby in your senior years isn't just about finding a pleasant pastime. It's about continuing to grow, to challenge yourself, to discover new aspects of who you are and what you're capable of. It's about refusing to accept the narrative that aging means diminishment. Instead, it can mean renaissance, a rebirth of curiosity, creativity, and joy. I hope sharing my journey has inspired you to consider what creative path might be waiting for you. Maybe it's painting, like it was for me. Or perhaps it's writing, photography, woodworking, pottery, music, or any of the countless ways humans have found to express themselves creatively throughout history. Whatever it might be, I encourage you to take that first step. Sign up for a class. Watch some YouTube tutorials. Order some basic supplies. Give yourself permission to be a beginner again, to make mistakes, to create simply for the joy of creating. Remember, it's never too late to learn something new. Your age isn't an obstacle, it's an advantage. You bring to your creative pursuits a lifetime of experiences, perceptions, and wisdom that will inform your work in ways unique to you. If you've enjoyed this discussion about discovering creative hobbies later in life, I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. What creative pursuits have you explored? What challenges have you faced? What joys have you discovered? Leave a comment below, and let's continue the conversation. And if you found value in this video, please consider subscribing to the Hobby Renaissance channel for more discussions about finding fulfillment, creativity, and community in our senior years. Each week, we explore different aspects of this important topic, always with the belief that our later years can be among our most creative and fulfilling. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, keep creating, keep exploring, and remember, the Renaissance is just beginning.